I'll see if Kerry, if anyone else is turning up. Is anyone else coming in for the nutrition?
Coming in.
Yes.
Fantastic. Oh wait, absolutely fine.
Anyway, ever since then, it felt like I didn't get to go.
On to our last two coffees.
No, you're all right. Guys, we're going to start in like 2-3 minutes, okay?
Okay.
Think of loads of questions. Make it interactive.
Is that what we're meant to be doing? Thinking of questions?
No, I'm talking.
Okay. I've
Okay.
got one already.
No, the thing is, like, which I'm going to say at the start, I want you guys to think of like loads of questions because nutrition is about you guys, right? And then I can attach protocols. Yeah, 100%. Should you what?
That's my first question.
Should you stop
Should I
what?
stop having my full English before Cruise Saturday every Saturday?
Well, if your stomach can process it.
It can't.
When I was out in America, I didn't know that I was going to go training like half an hour later, and I had like a massive cheesecake like this.
Yeah.
Had that, and then done a horrible workout, and it's just like through the whole workout, I was like,
How did it look the second time you ate it? Good?
yeah. Right?
To introduce you?
No, absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I'll do it. Yeah, if that's okay. Or you can if you want. I don't mind.
Probably a little bigger.
Please
Too
do.
humble to do it yourself.
Please do. Am I okay to mention that we're partnering up with you? Yeah.
Sorry?
Am I allowed to mention that we're partnering up?
absolutely.
Yeah.
no,
Perfect.
so-
Yeah. Perfect.
Are you
Esme said that we'll send everyone the PDF
Oh, okay.
because it's easier.
Yeah.
Get Ed to turn the music down a tiny bit. Ed, could you turn the music down a teeny bit? Yeah, it's just the speakers like right in my ear.
I can't turn it down because my phone is recording.
Okay.
So I've got to-
Could you turn the music down? Yeah. My autism can't deal with music and talking at the same time.
I can focus on that. I think we are all here in accounted for, so I'll just introduce Luke very quickly. You've probably seen him throwing loads of weight around through the other side, but him with Esme's support at No Rule Nutrition, and we are really, really lucky here because No Rule is probably the biggest nutrition business in the CrossFit space in the UK. That would be too humble to say that, but we're really lucky that we've got that just on our doorstep here. So nutrition is the foundation of everything we do fitness-wise. You may or may not have seen this pyramid picture in CrossFit spaces, but nutrition is the big block at the bottom, underpins everything we do health and fitness-wise. Then we've got metabolic conditioning, weightlifting, gymnastics, and then sports-specific stuff is the little pinnacle there. But nutrition is the big block at the bottom, and it's the one that we all forget about. But we are lucky that we've got Luke here. So I shall pass you over to him, and he'll enlighten you.
That was probably the best introduction I've had today. So, so thank you so much. Yeah, so I'm Luke, and you all know Esme. She is the brains for the company. I just get to talk in front of you lovely guys. So No Rule Nutrition has been running now for 6 or 7 years. And my goal was to help people get their personal excellence. And what that means is whether you have a high stressful job, whether you're navigating the Western world, the family, everything like that, everything in life, nutrition has an impact on everything. If I don't eat for 5 or 6 hours and Esme says something to me, like my mood may be dependent on what I've done with my nutrition. If I come to in the gym and I get frustrated with a weight or I get frustrated with training, nutrition is probably the issue there, right? So my job and our company's job is just give people that nutrition freedom. You go on Google, right, and you can go, how do I do this? And they treat you like a computer. They go, okay, well this will definitely work, or fasting will definitely work, or demonize this will definitely work. And it doesn't work. Like, you as an individual is so much more important, and it's about attaching nutrition to you and your stresses and your lifestyle and your family and everything like that. And that's what we do as a business. How I started No Rule Nutrition, well, believe it or not, I started it probably in my head when I was 16 years old. So I was born with a cleft palate, so feeding was really hard. And then through the repetitive probably of feeding, maybe mum and dad parenting me too much, at the age of 16 I got to 25, 26 stone, morbidly obese. And my one wish was to be normal. And for just after my 16th birthday, I went out for a run, restricted my diet. Within 8 months later, I lost 82 kilos, right? And then after, I was like, what do I do? Like, I just learned how to restrict my eating. I learned how to over-exercise and restrict. So what do I do then? Like, have I got to do that for the rest of my life to be what you call normal as such? So I started investigating. I started investigating myself. I started to look at studies, started to see what worked for me. Done a career in the army, and then done my nutrition degree. And my biggest calling was helping people, whether they were in my situation or whether they need help in any other area, because I understood that the science of nutrition needs to be connected with the human side of nutrition, right? So it's two very different aspects, okay? And the reason why I'm so good at my job is because I had the most fucked up mentality with food, still do to a certain degree now, but it doesn't show because I know my red flags. I know what happens when I'm overworked, or I know what happens when I start to overtrain. It's 9 times out of 10 there's something that's out, whether it's stress markers, whether it's something like that within my life, and I just learned how to harness it. So obviously that gave us a great basis in terms of helping people, no matter if they're general population, they just want to increase their health metrics, want to be able to run a 5K, be able to walk a 5K, all the way up to, which we're privileged to do, is get to people at the pinnacle of their sport. And obviously we've been at the CrossFit Games this year, and yeah, we're absolutely loving helping people. So within this talk that I'm doing today, okay, I want you guys to think about loads of questions, okay? Nutrition's quite personal, okay? Like, you're talking to someone who's been through it all, okay? But if it is really personal, come and grab me after. But yeah, think of loads of questions. Think about your lifestyle. Think about like questions about what happens when you train, whatever like that. But I will run through it all, okay? So we're gonna first talk about a bit about the science of nutrition, okay? And then start to go through the personal application with nutrition, okay? Any questions so far? No? Another thing as well, I've got a PowerPoint in front of me, or a PDF. What I'll do is I'll send that to Kerry. Well, I don't know how to send it, but Esme will send it to, I literally don't know how to turn on my laptop. Esme will send it to Kerry, and then you guys will get it, okay? So all the information that I'm going to talk about today, you all will get. So please write down notes, but also you'll get everything as well, guys, okay? The basics of nutrition, okay? All food, everything, has a total amount of energy in it, right? And we call that calories. Calories actually came from the steam train, and it's just for us as humans to put a measure to what food has. So all food has it. There's a subset of calories that are called macronutrients, okay? So they're the functions for what our body needs, okay? So you get the total energy, and then you get the functions, okay? So you have your proteins, you have your carbohydrates, and you have your fats, and then you have your micronutrients as well, guys, okay? Now, when I talk about protein in the Instagram space, in the social media space, it's like protein get you jacked and muscles and everything like that. Yes, it has a huge recovery basis to it, okay? But our body is made up of all proteins within our body, all our cells, our nails, our hair, everything, okay? So it's really important. Think of proteins as the construction workers, as the fixers within our body to restore our body, okay? So from our skin cells, everything like that, okay? Now, What's in protein? Obviously you get chicken, turkey, fish, tofu, and then on a supplement level as well, you get like whey or plant protein. There's obviously eggs as well in there, but there's a whole itinerary of proteins that I could list on for the next 5 minutes, okay? Now, going on to carbohydrates and fats, okay? In the dieting world and in the books like the Atkins diet, the Slimming World, the fasting, the 600 calorie a day, whatever it is, the biggest manipulation that people do with macronutrients are within carbohydrates or fats, okay? Because on a health and safety level, with these big organizations who want to demonize stuff and try and make stuff work, is the only thing that they can restrict as such to a certain degree is your carbohydrates and fats. Because your body needs that protein on a real big health level, right? But on a macronutrient level, our primary macronutrients to live is our protein and our fats, okay? Which I'm going to go through in a minute, our fats. Now, a non-essential macronutrient is carbohydrates, okay? And when I say non-essential, if we cut out carbs totally, our body can survive because it can use fats as energy, right? Which like keto diet do, right? And they actually set up the keto diet for cancer patients because cells is obviously a fast-acting energy, and they didn't want to multiply cells when you're going through chemo or anything like that because of the cancer cells, okay? But carbohydrates are our primary energy macronutrient, okay? So our body is always going to turn to carbohydrates first to be stored as glycogen within our muscles and then to give us energy, okay? So it's really important. Even though we can survive without it, carbohydrates should not be demonized. Most of you, 99% of you who I see in here, come and do classes, okay? Now, when you do classes, your body's always going to prioritize carbohydrates unless you've cut them out for a long while, where your body will prioritize ketos, which your body will use fats. But within this class, everything like that, and in the gym, in high intensity exercise, carbohydrates are our friends, and we'll talk about them in a minute, okay? So going on to fats. Fats are super important, guys, okay? So fats not only are a slower burn of energy for us, okay, but they also regulate our health markers with our hormones. Now, our hormones are the, is hard drive in a computer, or is that a soft drive? Right, I'm going to say hard drive. They're our hard drive within a computer, so they send electrical currents within the body to help regulate everything, okay? So they're super important for us and our body to send chemical signals around the body to tell us what to do, okay? So if you cut out fats, okay, what you're actually telling your body is to down-regulate your hormones, okay? Now, if I have 2 bits of liquid or a litre of fats and a litre of carbohydrates and they're in liquid form, okay, and I pour them on the floor here, I spark up a match and I light them, okay, the carbohydrates are going to act like petrol. So the flame will go woof like that, okay? It'll burn very fast, okay? If I put a match on the fats, okay, they're going to burn really slowly. So start to get that in your head with going to yourself, okay, with exercise, if you're doing a real horrible workout, your body will always want petrol because you need fast-acting energy, okay? If you're doing anything like an Ironman, a half marathon, or a marathon as such, you want a bit more slow burning energy with the carbohydrates because you don't want to burn all your energy off in half an hour as such, okay? Now, within carbohydrates, obviously you get stuff like oats, sweet potatoes, wraps, bread, whole grains in there for complex carbohydrates as well. And then you get more simple ones like Haribo, Squares bars, Biscoff, jam. Like they're more simple because they're high sugary carbohydrates compared to starches that are potatoes, rice, pasta, and then the complex ones are like oats, quinoa, and beans, and aspects like that, okay? Now, within fats, okay, Example of fats are avocado, nuts, olive oil, dark chocolate, and factors like that, okay? Now, in terms of, when we were talking about that total energy, okay, the subset of macronutrients is 1 gram of protein is 4 calories, okay? 1 gram of carbohydrate is 4 calories, and 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So fats are twice as much and a bit more calorific than the carbohydrates and proteins, okay? Which is really useful to know. Any questions about macronutrients or anything like that? No? So micronutrients, your green veg, your fibers, everything like that. Now, vegetables are not called performance-based foods, which I'm going to talk to you about in a minute, performance-based foods. But micronutrients are there for your body. They're like the washing up tablet within your body. So they go through the digestive system and your body doesn't break it down, but what it does is get all the roughage out of your stomach to then clear out. So it's really good for you, which I class as a performance-based food because micronutrients help and aid us break down macronutrients. So if macronutrients are our recovery, our energy, our hormone, everything like that, but they need to be broken down by micronutrients, okay? Which is, to me, a performance-based food because they're enhancing our macronutrients. Okay, guys? My autism is literally going like I'm just like counting how many. So yeah, that's me talking about foods, numbers with foods, what foods are, like the macronutrient, the overall intake, which is really important to know because if Kerry or Esme or Sam or Rachel's taken a class and it's a deadlift, right, you'd never have your eyes closed and not know what that weight is. Is that weight 50 kg or is it 200 kg? So knowing what food is, knowing actually the basis of what it does, knowing actually the intake of it, is really important to know because then we can start associating it with you as an individual, okay? Now, I've talked to you about foods, I've talked to you about overall intake, everything like that. To a certain degree, it means absolutely F all unless you know how much you need. That is one of the biggest questions in nutrition. It's like, how much do I need, right? And it's so stressful not knowing how much you need and just guessing on a daily basis, okay? And it's really important. We live in a world now where it's quality, 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 but without quality, that's not just health. Like health is everything within nutrition to start matching it up as you as an individual. Because if I am here right in front of you and I have a plate of what people class as health, salmon and broccoli, right, and it's 500 calories on a plate, right, and that's all I eat in a day, well, like, is that healthy? No, because I'm not eating enough. So matching up that quantity is super important. Coming into the gym and feeling like your 80% is 120% will be a quantity issue or a stress issue. Okay, so knowing how much to regulate your body is really important, okay? Now, you can go on the internet and it can treat you like a robot and it can do a calculator. There is the Harris-Benedict theory, okay, where they calculate, I think, 14 times how heavy you are on pounds, and then the only thing that we do within knowing how much to set is your protein intake, which is, I said 1 gram is 4 calories. So what you would do is time 1 gram by your total body weight. So if I'm 200 grams, like my goal is to eat 200 grams of protein, okay? That's what all dietitians and nutritionists head to. But if any nutritionist and dietitian goes, Kerry, I know that your maintenance is 3,000 calories, without knowing anything about them, they're lying, okay? So the best thing I do for my clients is I get to track their weight from day 0 to day 7, okay? And I'll set them their recommended protein intake, right? And it's not so much a guess now in terms of, because I'm like, I understand bodies, I understand how they work, but it is a guess because I don't understand their life, right? Now, your set point, your maintenance, okay, is dictated by like how you've lived your like stressful life, if you've undereaten, overeaten, if you've had surgery, everything like that to cause panic within the body will like change your set point or your maintenance. Now, I haven't spoke about maintenance, surplus or deficit yet, right? But a maintenance, it means that your body is getting enough energy in to maintain its systems, maintain its weight, maintain its hormones, okay? A deficit, okay, is someone who is eating less than the energy that they're burning out, okay? And a surplus is the opposite of that. So you're eating more than the energy that you're burning out, okay? So maintenance is you're maintaining your systems. Deficit, fat loss, surplus is growth, okay? Now, how do we know that? Like, how do we know how much to eat? So what we do is we would set an intake on day one, and we would follow that for the rest of the week. So say if it was 200 grams of protein and 3,000 calories as such, okay? At the end of that week, as long as I haven't done anything weird and wacky, like gone and run a marathon and then, I don't know, done stuff out of our norm too much, we'll see a pattern within your body weight. If you maintained your weight, then great, your intake is around that 3,000 calorie marker, okay? If you've lost, say, a kilo, then your maintenance is around that 2,500 marker, okay? And if you put weight on, right, then, sorry, where am I? Yeah, if you put weight on, it's around that, lost weight, it's around that 3,500 calorie marker, okay? So you then know the trends of actually the food that you're consuming by how to maintain your body weight. Does that make sense? I sort of butchered it towards the end a little bit, okay? And tracking gets a real bad, well, at the moment it's getting a bit of a bad cred for like restricting, over-restricting. Now, you don't have to track forever. It's just good to then know actually portion sizes and to know actually what metric your body's running at. So then you don't come in the gym and you're 1,000 calories every day in a debt, or 1,000 calories over and you feel sluggish. So it's knowing how much that your body can consume, and after tracking, then you can go into a personal application that I'm going to talk about right now, okay? So talking about set point, pen. So if your set point is here at 2,500, okay, and you're training on a daily basis, and you're here, which is say 1,500, okay, what is that going to do to your body, okay? Sleep, mood, stress, energy, everything gets affected. But if you're there for too long, okay, what does your body do? Now, our body is, I'm a proper geek when it comes to this, okay? Your body is an incredibly smart survival tool, okay? So what it will say to itself, it will go, bloody Nora, like, I'm going to down-regulate. So what it's going to do, for an example, it's start going to down-regulate systems like digestion, like energy, like fidgeting, like moving, everything like that. It will do that unconsciously. It's like, right, winter's coming now, right? If I have £100 to heat my house, okay, but the bill comes back at £200, right, I'm not going to be able to heat my house, right, or all of my house. So what am I going to heat up? The kitchen and the living room. All the bedrooms, all the hallways, everything is going to be cold. Now, your body does exactly the same, okay? It just prioritizes the vital organs, all right? So everything from hair, everything from mood, sleep, everything like that, your functions, your secondary functions of your body start to down-regulate. So this is how important quantity is, okay? Now, structure. This is where we're going to start to talk about you as an individual, okay? Because then it becomes a bit of a minefield. You're going, all right, well, I've got to eat enough. Okay, I've got to get a certain amount of quality in, right? How do I do that on a daily basis? So knowing who you are as an individual and how to become consistent with your actions is super important, okay? So when I say to my clients, I say to them, I go, okay, right, talk to me about your life, and they go, okay, well, I have a really high pressure job, I'm out the door really early, and then I run to the gym at this time, or I train at 6:30 in the morning, and it becomes, you start to collect this data on an individual, okay? And then I simply go to them, how many meals do you have a day, right? And then they'll go back to me, I'll only have time to have 1 or 2 meals a day, right? So straight away, that becomes really hard to do, right? Because if you're 200 pounds or 150 pounds, right, and you got to split 150 grams to 200 grams of protein, are you going to do that in 1 or 2 meals? And then if you need a certain amount of energy with carbohydrates and fats, are you going to do that within 2 meals or 1 meal? Like, it becomes really hard unless you're there eating 2 plates of tofu or a plate of 3 steaks, and it then becomes all overwhelming. So structure's really important, okay? And the first thing you need to say to yourself is, right, how many meals can I be consistent with a day, and how can that work around my lifestyle? So the typical meal structure, okay, is breakfast, lunch and dinner, okay? Right, and you go, okay, right, I'm gonna be consistent with that. But what happens in the morning if you're getting the kids ready and you're trying to take the dog out, and also you're trying to get the kids fed, and then you've got to run out to work, right? Like, we live in a world now where we create options, okay? So do we have time to sit down and have eggs and toast in the morning? Right, if you're in that situation, you don't. But there's always another way, right? Like, can you have a protein smoothie with oats and peanut butter and some fats in there? Can you prep the night before? Do you see what I mean? You're problem solving your nutrition to create an alternative that actually fits into your lifestyle, okay? And then you go for lunch, okay, well, I don't normally get hungry for lunch because I normally miss lunch. Do you know when we were back at school? Anyone here at school? Yeah? No? Okay, well, when we were at school, right, our hunger signals were 8 o'clock in the morning or 7:30 in the morning, 10:30 on our break, and then 1 o'clock for our lunchtime and a snack after school, right? We always used to get hungry for them times because your body used to regulate and create your digestion, like, circadian rhythm, so it remembers that. So we need to then create hunger signals for them times for you, okay? So within your structure, you're thinking about, okay, well, when are my hunger times? How can I create options to get my protein, my carbohydrates and fats in? And you're thinking about this all the way through the day, okay? And you're always associating what works for you as an individual, right? And then you can add stuff onto it. So my job is really cortisol. So I'm like thinking about, like, exactly the same as Ez. I'm thinking about, right, I need to be here, I need to do this, I need to serve this person and that. So at night, after my dinner, my hunger signals are through the roof because my cortisol levels all through the day is that fight or flight response, right? And then when I chill out, then cortisol levels come down and my stress hormone, my growth hormone comes up, which means my hunger levels go up. So then you go to yourself, right, why don't you plan a snack for it, right? So it's a planned snack to keep you, it's like, I call it keeping the bowling alleys, or the sides on the bowling alleys up, okay? Unless you throw the ball outside the gates on the sides, you're gonna have a pretty good go at hitting what you need to, right? So then you start to create this avenue of, like, application, and then you go to yourself, right, bloody hell, I can then spread my protein across 3 meals and 1 or 2 snacks across a day. Then I can then make sure that I'm getting enough calories in each meal, so I'm not getting to the end of the day and I'm having 500 calories and then I'm burnt out and I feel like I want to eat everything inside. And then it becomes that domino effect. And then the best thing after, you go, okay, what time do I train, right? So within that structure, you go, do you get to the gym and you're running on empty? And then the gym becomes a bit of a negative if you're running on empty because you start to resent it, right? Then you can go, okay, what time do I train? Do I train at 4:30? Do I train at lunchtime? Do I train in the afternoon? Do I train late at night, right? And you know what I was talking about, the macronutrients, okay? Then we become macronutrient specific and we put a value to each meal. You know, I was talking about petrol and diesel and spreading protein across the day, okay? When you're away from training, okay, you want nutrient dense foods, high fibers, protein in there, healthy fats because you want to have slower burning of energy. You want starchy carbs, low sugar, right? But then you can go to yourself, right, where's my training? Okay, I'll give you an example, 9:30 in the morning, okay? So that breakfast becomes a fast-acting carbohydrate meal to power you on for that breakfast, okay? So pre-workout foods and stuff like that, you can start to navigate your education of macronutrients of having that fast energy, okay? Anywhere, I'm going to go through it in a bit, I think I'm jumping ahead, but anywhere round training, 60 to 90 minutes before, right, you want to decrease your fat intake because fats take twice as long to digest as carbohydrates. You want to go for a carbohydrate focused meal and you want to have it 60 to 90 minutes before you train. You do that, right, and I promise you it will be a game changer, okay? And then within those 3 meals and 2 snacks, you can then pick and move that pre-workout around that training. So you're always fueling yourself. You're always aligning yourself with the stress and adaptation of your day as such, okay? For people who train at God awful, I tried it for a couple of weeks, at 6 o'clock in the morning, first of all, well done, you crazy fools. Now, then you're going to yourself, right, have I got to get up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning and start absolutely nailing down food, right? No, you don't, right? What I would suggest in terms of hydrate, maybe have a banana and an orange juice because it's that fast-acting carbs, but it's not really going to break down too much in the stomach and it's going to be utilized as fuel, but your pre-workout food is going to come from the night before, okay? So when I talked about like a bedtime snack, right, the people who train really early in the morning, I always get them to have a bedtime snack. So their body has that glycogen, which is carbohydrates, and it has that energy to fund you through the next day, okay? So the night before, have a protein, I'll give an example now, protein, Greek yogurt, some fructose in fruit, some nut butter, just to slow down the food from processing, and a bit of carbohydrates like granola as such, right? So you've got a balance of food groups that your body's then going to prioritize for that really early session. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah? So personal application is about you as an individual. It's about your hunger signals, your stresses, your life, everything like that. You never, ever, ever need to go make stuff harder for yourself, right? So if Kerry asks us to go out for an 800-meter run, right, am I going to put my lovely pink running trainers on, right, to make it easier, or am I going to wear my Crocs, right? I'm not really going to wear your Crocs. And that's the same with personal application. Wear your running trainers. Make sure that you're protected with your nutrition by structuring your day to exactly how you need it, okay? It always starts with overall intake, then it becomes your macronutrients, getting that protein in across the meals, and then it goes from there, macronutrient timings around training, okay? So that's just a focus in terms of with classes, everything like that. Any questions about classes and food around that or anything like that?
You answered the one I had, which was the 6 a.m. start. So that's
Perfect. Another one as well, guys. When you are looking at performance-based meals or snacks before the gym, okay, you know that washing up tablet of micronutrients that I spoke about, right? You don't want them in your foods 60 to 90 minutes before you train, okay? Because you don't want blood in your stomach. You want everything to be broken down to go to your muscles to be utilized as energy, okay? So please don't eat a bowl of broccoli or anything like that before you're coming in here to train. It's just going to leave you very heavy. And when I'm at competitions, even at the elite level, it blows my mind when people are eating like vegetables and stuff like that. I'm like, absolute crazy. But yeah, just pull that out and pull it to your meals away from training, okay? So,
Can I ask you one question?
of course you can.
If you're training late in the evening, like 7:30 to 9 or even 8 to 10, what would you like to eat your dinner prior to that or like have it after?
That's a great question, yeah. So it's then your dinner, so-called dinner, would be your pre-workout meal. as such. Do you see what I mean? So what you would do then within your structure at the start of the day, you would increase your fats a little bit because you don't want them around your training, all right? And then you would increase your fats in each meal until you got to your dinner, and you'd have something like, this is just an example, so it can be anything. It can be a burrito without the avocado. Do you see what I mean? Probably an hour and a half before 2 hours if it's food like that, okay? If you, guys, a quick one as well. If you're ever rushing and you're getting to the gym and you've got half an hour to get to the gym and you've had nothing for 3 or 4 hours, we live in a world where everything's convenient, okay? I can literally go into a garage, get some Lucozade, right? Get some pineapple and maybe a Squares bar if I need any more, right? And that's all sugary carbohydrates that's gonna burn very quickly and not weigh us heavy, okay? So like there's always options there, whereas if your pre-workout meal's 2 hours beforehand, you can afford to have less sugar, still carbohydrates, but more starches, more lean proteins and everything like that, okay? Perfect. So everything I've spoke about at the moment is what I call your infinite game, okay? So it's the you world, okay? And that's what I say to all my clients. It's like, it's problem solving to make you more optimal on the trivial things that we do on a daily basis, okay? Any meal out, any holidays, unless we go on holiday every week, Christmas, anything like that, mean F all, okay? They're a blip on the calendar, okay? Our bodies always navigate to our trivial things that we repeat most of the time, okay? So please don't worry about meals out, Christmas, holidays and that. It takes 7,500 calories over your maintenance. So if your maintenance was 2,500, right? It takes 7,500 calories over that to put 1 kilo of fat on, right? And if you do that in one meal, which is bloody hard, it's really hard to do that. But on every day, if I'm having 30 grams of Biscoff in my oats, right? And I'm like, yep, that's 30 grams done. And then I like get a bit funky with it and add 10 grams every day and it becomes 50 to 80 grams a day on that. Well, then that's gonna start adding up on the trivial level. So it's always the stuff that we repeat, actions that we repeat add up rather than the big things, okay? So infinite game, that's what I've been talking about. Infinite on a description level means you play in for the rest of your life, okay? Nutrition, we have no choice because we have to survive, right? We have to play in for the rest of our lives. Now, fad diets always start a start and a finish, okay? Right? It's repeat cycles of business, whereas your infinite game is somewhere you play in for the rest of your life. Now, what I'm going to start talking about now is your finite game. So within nutrition, you can create an infinite game, like you as an individual, your needs, the basics of nutrition, how to apply it to yourself. Then you create a finite game within it. So the finite game could be a training focus. It could be a competition. It could be a high rocks. It could be a personal preference with how you look, okay? And that's your finite. But the most important thing, when you come out of wanting to be the best high roxer, the best crossfitter, the best whatever, you have that infinite game to go back to, okay? Which is so important because then you don't become in no man's land, okay? Now, a finite game, the phases of nutrition, okay? So I've done a lovely little, I call it a pyramid, but it's quite wonky. A pyramid here, okay? If you look, you've got performance at the top, you've got body composition to the left, and health to the right, okay? Now, if you've noticed, they're all the same distance away from each other, right? So performance here, body composition here, health here. So an example of these phases are, okay? Body composition is where I walk out in front of you in an example of body composition to the extreme, okay? Is I walk in front of you with skimpy pants and I'm tanned up and I do like the old bodybuilding and I'm like, judge me guys, everything like that. So that's an extreme version of body composition, okay? Right? Performance, an extreme version of a performance is an Ironman, is the games that we went to, okay? And an extreme version of health, right, is an example of the methodology of CrossFit, right? So where I'm going from this, okay, is if you within your goals, over focus on something, then you're going to sacrifice health, right? If you're over consuming on body composition, you're going to like be furthest away from health and performance, because bodybuilders on the stage, okay, they can't, and my brother's run, right? If I ask him to run 100 meters, he can't without his heart rate being super high. His hormones get affected, right? And it's exactly the same with someone who diets for too long. The hormones get affected and their health markers start to get affected, and their performance levels. Now, if I'm in performance phase for too long, well, then I'm the furthest away from body composition and health. So if I'm throwing 200 grams of sugar down me on a daily basis and I'm trying to max out my engines every single day, then something's going to give within my health metrics. Like Jen, I'll give her an example. She's just done the CrossFit Games, okay? For the 8 weeks around that, I was force feeding her so much sugar, and it was like, I felt like an absolute arsehole doing it, and she hated it when people would be like, I love it, but it's really hard work to do that, right? Because all you're bothered about is converting enough fuel to be converted into energy and recovery, so their bodies can do the extreme things that they can do, okay? And then health is then the 100% health is you, to a certain degree, like you'd be careful with maxing out your heart rate. You would be careful with so many things that are too much stress and too much adaptation from, okay? So it's knowing where you sit within this, okay, and how to navigate it, okay? So like here, if you're in the middle here, okay, you're not really focusing on anything, and you can sort of venture to here if you need to lose body weight, or you can venture to here if you've got a high rocks, or you can venture to here to restore your health markers, okay? But it's very, very important that you return back to that set point that I spoke about earlier, okay? So I'll give an example of the easiest one to give, body composition, okay? No matter if you're an athlete who's super bothered about competing, we all have a certain percentage that we care about how we look, right? So people go on to a fat loss, okay? And like the more that you're into a fat loss phase, okay, the more that you're sacrificing the other metrics, okay? So you need to be very careful of the stress and adaptation. And I'm talking about, like, stress is you're consuming less energy than giving out, right? So what you need to do is give yourself a timeline on this body comp if you want to lose weight or put on weight, right? And for men, you can only be on a deficit for 12 weeks, most, right? Until you return to your set point. So, for instance, if you're 2,500 calories and you go down to 2,000 calories, right, you'll lose a kilo a week if that's your maintenance and your stress markers are okay and everything like that, right? But the more that you're in that, the more your body down-regulates. So moving back to your set point after 12 weeks for men is super important. Now, when I talk about this next thing, like, it's not about weakness, it's not about strength. Us as men, we're still cavemen, okay? We throw rocks at each other, we laugh, everything like that. And our body has a 24-hour cycle, okay? So we recover really quickly because our testosterone markers kick in, okay? Females have to lengthen their recovery over a month, okay? And their hormones are a lot more susceptible to stress, okay? So whenever you're doing anything that is stressing your body out, or you're in a finite game, whether it's performance or whether it's body composition, okay, you can only be in a fat loss without any metabolic interruption or metabolic problems for about 6 weeks the most, okay? And that's if stress markers are low, that's if your work, it's not too stressful, family, everything like that. So phases are really important in your finite game, but also is returning to your set point, okay? And when I talk about performance, which I will in a minute, okay, But when I talk about performance, then all you're bothered about is converting food into energy at a time that you need to, okay? And maybe living in a maintenance or a surplus. Does that make sense to everyone about finite games, everything like that? But guys, if you're doing classes and you want your health markers to be good, you still want to perform everything like that, okay? A maintenance of a set point, finding your maintenance is super important to do that. And then if you wanted to lose a bit of weight and or body fat or put on muscle, then you can just up or reduce your intake by 250 calories, knowing the stress, okay? A big thing before I talk about more performance stuff, we're all individual. I'll put an example and I'll say it between me and Esme, okay? I put my head to the pillow and there's two monkeys just going like this, like I'm gone to the world, right? I don't really think about much when all my neurological energy has gone to work, and I can close my mind off pretty well to stuff. Now, Esme has a superpower. She's got ADHD, right? Which means her head's going bow, 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 all the time. She's thinking about 1 million things at once. So you need to, what I'm saying, if you're a high functioning person or you think or you have anxiety or anything like that, you have to tailor your nutrition to it, because your body doesn't know, right, whether you're thinking neurological stress. It thinks it's exactly the same as you training, right? Because it's a fight or flight response, okay? It's your body's natural defense from running away from the saber-toothed tiger. So be careful, or what I'm saying is structure your nutrition to yourself of how you know your body operates. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah? Perfect.
Can I ask a question? You were saying about the 6-week phase for females.
Yeah.
If, for instance, there was a target weight and you didn't achieve that in the 6th week, would you go back to your maintenance for a while and then almost revisit the deficit?
Yeah, 100%. There'll be a reason, there'll be a reason why, okay? Like your body wants to create, so your central nervous system and your fuse box within your body, right, will only do stuff if it feels safe enough to do it, okay? So if you knew what your maintenance was and then you put yourself into a deficit and you weren't losing any weight and you were actually putting on weight, which is inflammation, okay, water weight, then it would be not the right time to diet, okay? So say if, I'll give you a fine example. We've been away every single weekend, and we've been, we're going to 4 countries or 3 countries in the next 3 weeks. It's not a time for me to focus on me wanting to lose weight. My body won't do it, right? Whether I'm in a deficit or not, because my stress hormone will be too high, which my body will press that fuse switch off and go, no, we're not doing it. So if that ever happens to you, or you feel like your sleep's affected, you feel like your mood's going and you're on this deficit, and you notice that, okay, there's a trend of it not working, just return to maintenance, right? Because that's the most important thing, okay? Give your body that health markers of what it needs to be okay, okay? So dieting gets a really easy trend and going, oh, you've got to do this, or it's easy to do that. But you need to be really mature with it and focus on actually, is it right time for you to be able to do that, okay? Same with the performance phase as well, okay? So anything that you call stress onto the body, know if it's the right time to do it, okay? Perfect, great question.
Sorry, I've got another question. Can long-term health issues or conditions affect how you kind of manage your deficit?
Yes. So we call it adrenal fatigue, okay? So adrenal fatigue is our computer-based, our central nervous system, and it's the amplifier for our body. So if I've had surgery, or if for instance, when I lost all my weight, I lost it for about 6-7 years before I got my skin cut off, and my body's responses after that was very different to what I knew because of the stress that I put my body under, right? So if you have any underlying health issues and stuff like that, it's being really, nutrition's more important to go to yourself, right? How can I sleep optimal? How can I eat for quality and quantity? It's more focus on yourself rather than going, do you know what? I'm going to create more stress on the body by under eating to that extent. Okay? Perfect. Where am I? I just went on a huge random speak, and now I've got to find where I am. Where am I? So I'm going to talk about just a quick one, the points about around the performance phase, so nutrition around training, okay? So you want to have a meal 2 to 3 hours before training, and you want a balance of proteins, lean proteins, you want carbohydrates, you want to minimize your fat intake and your fibers. Anywhere closer, the closer you get to training or competing, you want to then start to dilute your food. So you turn to more carbohydrate liquids or spreads or easy, more sugary foods to be able to digest faster, okay? If you're 15 minutes away from training and you've had absolutely nothing, if in doubt, just have liquids, okay? And that is like, I don't know, Lucozade, Powerade, orange juice, pineapple juice. Do you see what I mean? Because it's not going to break down within the systems, okay? So there's always a protection level that you can go to. Now, post-workout, okay? Now, you know when I spoke about men versus females, we're cavemen who muck about and like we're pretty good after throwing stones at each other, everything like that. So our eating window after, like just because of the clock saying 0, our body doesn't know it needs to start recovering. It thinks we're still training. So we need to then wake up the digestion to create that recovery. So for men, as long as you get a good meal within protein and carbohydrates after, within an hour after, you're good. But for females, you know, when you've got to lengthen that recovery and make sure that recovery's like lasting for a month. Now, it's good to have a protein and carbohydrate source within 30 minutes, okay? So you guys are more important because you need to then drop the cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and increase the growth hormone, okay? Growth hormone is increased by insulin spikes, carbohydrates create insulin spikes, okay? So a quick one, in terms of protein, carbs, why do we need that after, okay? You know when I spoke about proteins being the builders within our body and making sure everything's fixed, they need transportation, okay? The transportation is a train of carbohydrates taking your builders around the body, fixing everything, okay? So without the carbohydrates or transportation, your proteins like struggle to get to the places to recover the areas, okay? So the importance of what carbohydrates do there, okay? Where are we? So guys, talking about a quick one about competitions, okay? So I know that Battle for Cancer is coming up, a competition. I know that Kerry loves to push high rocks. I know that we're doing competition. Did we win against Adira? Morally. Okay, perfect. Sorry. Can you? My brain just went. Did we win? Like forgetting I'm in a seminar. I know we're doing like in-house comps coming up, everything like that. Okay. So when we do a competition, okay, I'm going to run over here. We start to venture and taper our nutrition to start going up this way. Okay. So the importance of metabolizing food in a quick way to give off as much energy as we can, right? So then we start to go to ourselves, what do we need? Okay, well, we probably need to eat to our maintenance, but within our maintenance, we can up our carbohydrates and probably lower our fats a little bit, okay? So if you're doing a high rocks, let's say, I'll start with high rocks first, and then I'll talk about Battle for Cancer and CrossFit. If you're doing a high rocks, right, you have a training or a competition discipline which is between 60 minutes and 120 minutes, okay, right? So you're expecting your glycogen stores, which is your energy metrics, to last that long, okay? Now, you know when I talked about the saber-toothed tiger running after us? If we're training and if we are stressed, are we hungry? Like I've never been thinking about food after laying and rolling on the floor after a hard workout, right? Now, that's exactly the same over competition, okay? You're not going to be hungry because your then fight or flight response will be at its highest. So why try to force food in around competition? Like, it doesn't make sense, okay? So what I do to my clients / athletes, 2 or 3 days before, I get them to increase their carbohydrates by 50 to 70%, right? And if you track, it's really easy to do. If you don't track, right, then all you've got to do is say to yourself, hey, like, I've listened to Luke and I'm drilling in my structure right now, and I know I have oats in the morning with protein. I know I have rice for lunch with chicken and avocado. I know I have sweet potato and beef for lunch, for dinner. And then all you need to go to yourself is, I'm going to increase my carb intake, my oats in the morning, right? I'm going to increase my rice at lunch. I'm going to increase my sweet potatoes at dinner. Do you see what I mean? Make it really easy for yourself within your structure. The reason why we increase your carbohydrates, because we have to store that energy to be utilized, okay? So we always do it 2 or 3 days beforehand, because the effects of increasing those carbohydrates by X amount makes you feel a bit lethargic and tired. Have you ever had like a massive dinner and you're like, bloody hell, I need a nap after? So that's why we do it 2 or 3 days, to give the body time to store it as energy, okay? A big thing with a carb increase, okay, and if you're doing it by 60 or 50 to 70%, you take all vegetables out for that day, because you don't want anything, you're increasing something, so you don't want anything that's not going to break down within the system. So we take out vegetables, we take out whole grains, we take out brown rice, we take out everything like that, and we lower your fats a little bit, because if one energy macronutrient goes up, the other has to come down a little bit. No, that's two or 3 days before. Yeah, 2 or 3 days before. So, yeah, we increase that and we decrease your fats to give your body the availability to break down a higher amount, right? We always keep your protein the same throughout the day, okay? Now, the next day, so the day before the comp, right, the ultimate thing to do is to get back to your normal eating. So don't undereat, don't overeat, okay? But the biggest thing is to hydrate, okay? So if you're doing a high rocks or a CrossFit competition, okay, what I look for my clients to do is to have 3 to 4 litres of water that day. But if you guys like it, or if my clients like it, I get them to swap their water out for coconut water, because of the potassium and sodium ratio to that, there'll be no chances of cramping at all, okay? So we either have 4 litres of water with electrolytes in the morning, or we replace water for coconut water to give that body max hydration levels that we want, okay? So what we've done is, at a time that our fight or flight response is lower, we've stored all the energy in for our body. So the morning of the comp, okay, 2 or 3 hours beforehand, you always have a breakfast that you know that you've had before, right? There's weird and wacky people who just have stuff that they've never tried before, and they wonder why they're sick for the competition, okay? So try and have a focus on what you have before, but try and devolumize the food a little bit. And when I say devolumize the food a little bit, is I could have a roast dinner that can take me 25 minutes to eat, and it's 1,000 calories, or I can have some Greek yogurt that has honey, bananas, dried fruit on it, and it's 1,000 calories, and it takes me 5 mouthfuls to eat. Do you see what I mean? So just make sure you don't want a huge amount of volume 2 to 3 hours before the competition. So an example would be, right, in the morning, if you usually have eggs and toast in the morning, you would probably take 1 egg out because there's fats in it, okay? You'd have toast, and maybe you'd have on the side of 1 toast some jam for even more carbohydrates without filling up your stomach, and an orange juice on the side. Now I can say, like, your normal breakfast would be 30 grams of carbs with the bread there, but with the jam, the orange juice, and maybe a banana, you've just taken 30 grams up to 120 grams of carbs in basically the same mouthfuls, and you're just drinking a bit more there. Do you see what I mean? And then, an hour before the comp, okay, you want to just tell the body that everything's okay, all right? And what we do by that is we sip on some liquid calories, okay? Now, it's more neurological there, okay? It's if you have a Lucozade and you're sipping on the Lucozade if you're warming up or going to a comp, it's more neurological because you have sugar on your lips, okay? And then your brain thinks it's getting a constant flow of energy in, okay? So 1, you're keeping hydrated, and 2, you're tricking the brain. Now, if you're doing the high rocks, okay, it's knowing actually how your body does with eating food on the go or drinking calories on the go. So test it out in training. Like, you know, when Kerry does like 800-meter repeats with like stuff, with erg stuff, and you're doing it for 40 minutes, like test it out. Have a few sweets in your bra or your pocket or something like that, and on your run, just test it out by having one or two and seeing how your stomach deals with that. And then that could be a protocol that you use intra of what you do, okay? There's stuff like gels, and if you're good with taking gels, which are carbohydrate gels, you want to take one every 25 minutes so you don't go too far of low energy, and the gels beforehand is still reinforcing the gel the time you get to the next gel, okay? After a comp, okay, if you notice, it's been very heavily focused on carbohydrates, everything like that. After a comp, you just want to restore the protein levels, and then make sure that you hydrate, make sure that you get a good night's sleep, and then what you would do after any competition, you go through a health phase for a week. So you then start pointing down here and go into a health phase. You down-regulate sugars, you up-regulate nutrient-dense food groups, fibres, everything that you've restricted to get max performance, you start to implement back in, okay? So you just get that health phase to just tell your body it's okay. Any questions about high rocks, nutrition, anything like that? Okay, so carbs are your friend. That's what I'm trying to say, and just make sure that timings around it's really good. I would make sure that you 2 to 3 days before, you increase your carbohydrates, lower your fibres and your fats, okay? So you want to go for white carbs or starchy carbs or simple carbs to get in, okay? For a CrossFit competition, so this is slightly different because then we need to recover and then go again, recover and go again. And you would do exactly the same with the carb loading 2 or 3 days before, okay? But over a competition, and especially when you have multiple events, right? Don't care about protein during the day, don't care about fats or anything like that, right? We just repeat a cycle of going to yourself, have your normal breakfast, which is a chance to get your protein, a bit of fats and carbohydrates in. But during the day, if it's a one-day competition, okay, all you want to do is just navigate timings around the events. So navigate to what I do with my athletes is 45 minutes before the event, right? We stick to liquids, no solids or anything like that, because we don't want anything not being broken down in the body. I get them to take a Lucozade out with them, okay? And then so when they're finished and they're waiting for other people to finish, they can quickly pick up the Lucozade, drink it, and then their body's in that state of recovery straight away. And then we go to more diluted food of sweets, okay, because it's a mixture between liquids and solids, being jellies. And then 10 minutes after that, or 20 minutes after each event, we go to solid food, whether it's a bagel, whether it's squares, bars, everything like that. And then we just navigate back and repeat them cycles for each event, okay? So we're using food for its function, okay? So I've talked a lot about sugars, I've talked a lot about nutrient-dense food groups, health markers. Every food has a role within our body, and we're just utilizing it for the demand of what we need, okay? Any questions about CrossFit competitions or high rocks competitions, okay? So guys, when you go out and win your next competition, I got you to sign at the door, we take 10% of your prize money now, okay? Any questions so far? Okay, I'm going to quickly whiz over just female nutrition, okay? What I said about recovery, what I said about stress, adaptation, everything like that, okay? Please be mindful at whatever you do, whatever you put into your body, okay? Like, it's so important to navigate or eat to what your body needs to maintain its systems, okay? That is the baseline for your bodies to operate at a really good level. If you're under-eating and you're consistently under-eating, like, have a goal of increasing your intake by 100 calories a week until you feel like that your body's starting to upregulate, okay? making sure that you get a diverse set of micronutrients in, okay? So if I say, I do it to all my females clients where I say, if we're on our cycle, and I'm like, I don't get a cycle. If we're on our cycle, okay, it doesn't mean we can't train, okay? Yes, we may feel a bit, our ligaments, our tendons may feel a bit softer. Yes, our energy may be lower, right? But we need to increase, because the increased demand of the hormone fluctuations is there, we need to increase our carbohydrates in a nutrient-dense way, okay? So, you know when you come to your cycle and you have all these cravings for food, then you don't have any cravings for food, and then you get these big dopamine hits, everything like that. You don't want to use sugar to address that dopamine hit. You want to give your bodies lots of colour, lots of micronutrients, everything like that to serve it, and you want to eat to a maintenance and up your carbohydrates a little bit within your maintenance to make sure that you feel like yourself while still operating, because you can't not go to work. Like, you shouldn't not come to the gym. You just need to like manage your nutrition a bit more for that to be okay. Okay? Where am I here? Another one as well, guys, is just like making sure you're measuring your fats and having enough fats. So as men, okay, if we're in a high carbohydrate diet and we can afford to have our fats a bit lower, but you know when I spoke about fats for hormones earlier, okay, well our testosterone kicks in when any alert comes on, and it doesn't for females, right? So for females, you don't want your daily fat intake ever to be under 55 grams a day to 60 grams a day. So it's really important that you utilise healthy fats for your diet to help reinforce your hormones, okay, which is a big one as well. I think I've just whizzed all through it, guys. So before I ask any questions or answer any questions, what I wanted to put across today, guys, is how important nutrition is for you as an individual. You're not a Google search engine or anything like that, okay? Nutrition is a hypothesis subject where it's trial and error what works for you, okay? So always have that focus and always know that there's always a resolution that will work for you as an individual, okay? And if you've got any questions to ask me after or anything like that, we're in a very fortunate position as a business now where we've taken on more staff, so we've taken on we can help even more people. So if you guys are ever interested in joining up, we'd love to have you, and we'd love to have any questions, if anyone's got any.
So I've got a question.
Hit me.
Personally, we are more of a vegetarian family. I'm not vegetarian, but my partner is. So obviously bumping up that protein intake for me is quite important. I do try and have fish, chicken and things like that when I can. But sometimes I'll bump it up by using a protein shake to be able to get that protein in. But what sometimes I find, and I'm probably doing it a bit wrong, is I'll wake up in the morning, and certainly if I come to a 9:30 class,
Yep.
like say 2 hours before, I'll perhaps have a protein shake, and that's kind of like, I suppose, a breakfast in a way if I'm just in a rush, just got a little toddler. But sometimes then after that, and perhaps like 3 or 4 hours after that, I would actually feel quite sick. Is that because you can get too much of a spike of protein? Is it because I'm taking a protein shake perhaps on an empty stomach, and I should probably have more sliced bread with it?
It could be one, if the question was it's to do with like a vegetarian diet and to do with supplementing protein and how it makes you feel, right? So it could be that the protein as a supplement doesn't work for you. If it's whey protein or something like that, it could affect your gut in terms of that, okay? Now, supplements in the name are there to supplement your diet, right? So we never demonize them, but we don't want to use it as our main source. It's there for our supplement. What I would do is, you know, when we were talking about structure, so identify what you need that morning, okay? I would change your protein out and try that, like, and add more carbs in, because what it sounds like to me is you fasted throughout the night because you're not waking up in the middle of the night and eating, and then you're trying to do exercise on just protein in a liquid form that's probably creating some gut irritation to you. So I'd increase your carbohydrates. I would start with like fruit, let's say. So start with some fruit, maybe Greek yogurt or some sort of yogurt that you like, or even try some jam on toast, right? And forget about protein in that window and increase your protein after. And just investigate, okay, is it the whey protein that can cause, in many studies it can cause obviously stomach issues. But definitely have some carbohydrates as well. It's a great question.
Can I follow up with asking if there's any brands or types of protein you recommend? I haven't used any supplements, but I think I need to hit the
Yeah.
protein target.
You've got like gold standard, you've got what's it called? PhD protein and stuff like that. Just make sure that it's I 100% understand what you're saying. Just make sure within your diet you're going to yourself, like, you know, when I spoke about like meal structure, right? And say if you've got to hit, or you've got to try and hit over 100 grams of protein, within your meal structure, if you look at what you're eating and go, okay, well, I have 3 meals and 1 snack, and you know then if I get 25 grams of protein in each meal that I have, I've hit my protein throughout the day, okay? But if you are using protein as a supplement, then just make sure that it's not cheap. Like my protein, for example, like in this country, there's like a little loophole between buffers and stuff like that. So they're not using on the cheap ones like complete proteins. So it's full chain of amino acids. So you're paying for less. It'll be say 50 grams in there or 30 grams per scoop, but really where they're broken chain of amino acids as a protein, it will be a lot of chemicals within it as well. So just make sure that you're spending a bit more money to be able to get that, and use it as, if you're looking at your diet and going to yourself, right, I can't handle any more protein, and you're hitting 90 grams, then fantastic, use protein to add a bit more in there as such. Yeah? Okay. A big one as well, guys, right? Don't demonize any foods. You know, when I spoke about structure, right? Like if Esme says to me, right, if I'm on a fat loss, or if I'm stressed out and I'm overthinking about food, which I don't do anymore, right? And she goes to me, we're going out for a pizza tomorrow night, or we're going out for a pizza tomorrow night. The pizza's not going to go, Luke, you're fat, you're eating me, you're fat, right? It's never going to say that. It has a language of 449, right? Food does, okay? So when you understand, okay, a pizza, all it is carbohydrates and fats at a higher level. So within your structure, beforehand, you can just take your carbohydrates and fats down a little bit to then make it happen full circle. So you still hit enough protein, right? Because you've increased that beforehand. You've decreased your fats and your carbohydrates a little bit, and then you've eaten out, you still managed it, and you've been able to like eat to what your body needs to, okay? So there's no such thing as good food or bad food. There's just more palatable food. If I asked, who's a meat eater here, because I don't want to offend anyone. Perfect. If I asked you to eat 3 steaks right now, okay, then you're going to be pretty full up, right? After eating like 3 steaks, yeah? 4 steaks. Yeah, 5. But if I say to you right now, hey guys, like, or eat like 8, 9 Maryland biscuits, like within an hour you're going to be hungry again, right? So it's like food's just more palatable, right? And has more sugar in, or it's got more ingredients in, okay? And it's just learning how to harness it, okay? It's learning, going to yourself, right, they're all dopamine hits. If you put your sugar around training, okay, that's going to be burnt off, okay? If you eat your nutrient-dense food groups, your whole foods, your single ingredient foods away from training, okay, that's going to be utilized for the body, okay? So you then become smart and being able to apply nutrition for your daily life and stay in that control rather than living in no man's land thinking, how did I get here, as such. Any other questions, guys? Yeah. Yeah.
Just like the timings and things, like, I don't know what advice you'd give to.
So what about family meals?
Yeah, like parents eat and the kids eat and.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So we factor all that in, right? So think of it as an American football game, okay? right? So there's 4 quarters, okay? Now, we have non-negotiables. I am never ever, my love language is either having a coffee or a croissant with Esme or having dinner with Esme, okay? Don't really, like, as long as I'm there having it, I'm happy, okay? Whereas, like, you can still factor that into your nutrition. So if you go, okay, I'm eating with the kids and maybe the protein's a bit down or it's a bit more processed or it's a bit more easy, simplistic food groups, okay, you can then go, okay, well, my 3 quarters beforehand, so my morning, my snack and my lunch, I can implement increases or decreases to then that help that out. Does that make sense? So I would go, okay, instead of having 2 eggs, I'll have 3 eggs in the morning with my toast. Instead of having a little bit of chicken with my bagel, I'm going to have a bit more chicken with my bagel, and it will still equal that out there. So you're problem solving there and you're meeting your family demand, okay? Even to the certain degree, I've got clients who love to get on the bender, right? On a Friday or Saturday, right? Now, I'm not there to tell them you can't do that, right? Or don't do that or demonize that, okay? We just make the best with what we've got and go to ourselves, okay, right? Obviously your recovery's lacking there, right? You're feeling this here. So what we can do is make the 6 days around that as optimal as possible to protect you in your non-negotiable. Because we're all humans and we all have different non-negotiables to hit. We're not robots, okay? We live in a world where socializing, bloody hell, I go to a garage and the first things in front of me is chocolate, right? We live in a world where everything's marketed in front of you and you creating this safe bubble of structure, application, flexibility, food freedom, everything like that, by understanding how to manipulate stuff becomes then your food freedom as such. Okay, so really good question there.
What's your opinion on protein items in shops? Like, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's gotten really quite big.
So if you said, I want a Mars bar, but I better get a protein Mars bar, I'll be like, get the Mars bar. Okay, they're just a glorified chocolate bar. Okay, like it's anything. Use it to your advantage, like except from like chocolate protein bars and stuff like that, because they are literally just protein bar. Like they have a bit of protein in, but they're chocolate bars. But like anything that says low fat, anything that says a certain description on an item in the market, then they'll need to then put chemicals into it or something into it to make it more palatable. So you know you get the low fat sugars, right? Which is awesome if you need to moderate your fats and stuff like that, but be prepared, there's just going to be more sugar in it, okay? Like if it says, a food group says, okay, it's got, put it this way, like there's a lot of food groups out there now that you look at, you pick it up and you go, oh, that's that, but you look at the back and the actual food group is 8 ingredients behind it. Do you see what I mean? So like obviously always navigate to real food first, but just be aware that like there's always going to be a marketing basis on that. But if you want a chocolate bar, you absolutely have the chocolate bar. And if you want to manipulate your structure beforehand or after, you do that. But if we start to try and sort of restrict ourselves too much of processed food whilst not hitting an intake of what your body needs to and stuff like that, it becomes a bit obsessive as such. So if Esme said to me, we're not having a pizza or a burger for a month, right? What am I going to do when Sam goes to me, Luke, do you want to have a burger? I'm probably going to eat 5 of them, okay? Right? So if we restrict stuff, it becomes it then becomes over obsessive with it. Whereas if we pull it into our life, but we know how to moderate it, okay, then it doesn't become harmful to us at all, okay? Everything's like moderating dopamine spikes and everything like that. If, for instance, you were really like unhappy or something's going off in your life, right, and you were like, F it, I'm going to have a packet of Haribo, I'm going to have this to try and solve that, well, that would be an issue for us to look at, because you're trying to solve stress. Instead of trying to solve the stress, you're trying to solve it with food, okay? So like it's a balance between that mental health, a balance between, okay, what works for you as an individual as well, okay?
I was going to ask, I know this is a bit specific, leaning more towards like health and performance over body comp.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on same skim versus whole milk, and is like organic whole milk better than having like standard semi-skimmed?
Yeah.
I was always brought up in like a semi-skimmed house, but then there's so much research now that's like whole milk is better. And then also I've got like an indicator of high cholesterol levels in my body anyway, which
Yeah.
isn't concerning, but it's like, do I want the whole milk for health, but then I've got bad cholesterol, or do I have the semi-skimmed? Like, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, so obviously in terms of that, the cholesterol, I think the cholesterol can go up and down towards stress metrics, and like obviously you can be pre-exposed to it by genetically and stuff like that. But what I would say is definitely whole milk, because at the end of the day, if you're looking for health and performance as well, it's like it's been through the processor a lot less as such. Yeah, less processed as stuff. And that's if you're going down the real health route and everything like that. You want to like take the impact of what humans have done. Now, just to put a catch-22 on it, organic stuff can still be sprayed with stuff, because like there can be an organic field here and there can be a non-organic field here, and the wind can still spray the whole field there. So we live in a world where farming is probably at its biggest issue at the moment. But if you're looking at health, you want less ingredients, more whole foods, while still thinking about quantity, still thinking about stress metrics, everything like that as well. Okay?
Greek yogurt as well. So like I choose the 0% Greek yogurt because it's higher in protein.
Yeah.
But is the normal Greek yogurt better because it's whole?
Yes. Oh, you're testing me here. Yes. No, it is technically on the health level, it is better because it's been less processed. But what I'm sensing from you, you get the plain one anyway. And do you get the plain one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you went for the strawberry one, then
No, like if it's so 0% versus
yeah,
like
10%. Yeah. So technically the 10% would be better for you. But what you can do then is taper your fats anywhere else if you would need to taper your fats to hit your overall intake, if that makes sense.
I don't care about that. I quite like having like
Okay,
a lot of fats,
perfect.
so
Yeah,
just get it 'cause it's
yeah,
higher in
mega
protein.
then. Yeah, I would take the 10% one. Yeah. So good question. Any other questions? Yes.
So on a typical day, if I'm going to come to the gym for like 7:15 class in the evening,
Yep.
because I can't quite make it for 6 p.m. In the morning I can't do. So when I first get up, I'm not really one to. I just whatever time it is, I just can't eat for like not that much anyway
Yep.
in the morning. I'm not like breakfast is not my best time. But I usually have a banana, and then if I like lunchtime, I can eat quite a bit, but I only have about 20 minutes.
Yep.
And then when I get home, it's 6-ish. So then, what would you suggest? And I don't like eating just before I go to bed.
So it was.
What's the best?
We would do that.
Pescatarian.
Yeah, we would do like a step-by-step approach. If I said, right, we're going to absolutely smash some food in the morning, we're going to eat all this, it would be overwhelming for you. So what I would say to you is like, hey, like that banana, have that. Can we try and have a few grapes with that, or can we have some orange juice on the side for that, so liquid, right? And then after training, I'd go to you, hey, like, how about we utilise like it's as optimal as we need to make it for your preference. Can we have an apple after with some a rice cake and some peanut butter, something really light to eat? So we're after training. So we're doing stuff really lightly, and then the next week you can go, oh, how did that feel? Or I can go, how did that feel? And you're like, oh, I can do that. And then I'll be like, hey, you know, on that rice cake and peanut butter that we had, can we have half a bagel and peanut butter? So we're just gently taking it up by a bit. And then we can go, okay, your lunch. How can we maximise an intake for that lunch? How can we have some smoked salmon with some boiled eggs and some carb sauce on it? And then for your dinner, we can go, okay, well, can we increase your overall intake there as well. So it's that step-by-step approach where we're not overwhelming you. I'm not here to change everything about you. I'm just going to ourselves, let's upregulate. So when we're looking at that health markers, we want to get you to a position where we're upregulating your body to be able to use energy and take energy in, right? And we've got to train the body to do that. We just can't throw a load of, your body won't panic. So if your set point should be with your energy expenditure 2,000 calories, let's say, but you're only eating 1,100 calories. But if I told you to go straight on 2,000 calories, your body would just blow up with inflammation and water because it can't handle jumps like that. Too much stress, okay? So I'd just go to, hey, let's try and eat 150 calories more, right? And then the week after I go, hey, let's try and eat 100 calories more than that. And we just devise that within your structure to be able to do that. And within 10 weeks, you could be eating 11 to 1,200 more calories, but feeling amazing, but not having the side effects from that incredibly huge jump.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I get home at like 6-ish. What's the best things to eat before I do like 7:15?
What, at night?
Yeah.
Yeah. A starchy carb, like rice, bread, potatoes, sweet potatoes, stuff like that, and a lean protein source, chicken, 5% beef. Oh, sorry, you're pescatarian. Cod, haddock, tuna, like half it.
So I can have even just an hour before.
No, make sure it's like an hour and a half before. Yeah. Or if it's an hour before, gosh, you are testing me. You can. I would go for something. If it's so close beforehand, and that's the only time you could eat, I would eat your dinner after and have something like a yogurt base or what we were talking about with a pre or post, and have that, and then have your dinner a bit later and have like a post-workout jacket potato, tuna, and mayo for your fats. Do you see what I mean? Because of the time difference there. If you're having two solid foods, that's just going to sit heavy, whereas you liquidize your foods or dilute your foods a little bit in carbohydrates, that's going to give you your energy. A fine example is a little pot of yogurt, right, with 3 mouthfuls, and if you're like, I'm not a big eater beforehand, right, and you just sprinkle a load of honey over it, then you've just doubled the amount of carbohydrates in nothing that you're eating because it's on what you're having. Do you see what I mean? Yeah? No worries.
I've got a question.
Hit me.
So I eat pretty consistent most of the time, but I guess occasionally at the weekends, like obviously it's hard to keep that structure.
Yeah.
So what I normally do is say I overeat on a Sunday, or we might go out for breakfast and then have a barbecue or something. The next day I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna almost undereat.
Yeah.
And I kind of tell myself, oh, over 2 days I've balanced it out.
Yeah.
Is that the right thing to do, or should you just kind of reset and be like, oh, I'll just go back to
So
consistent?
that's a really good question. So it's one of the most like common things to overeat and undereat. On a psychological level, it's probably not the right thing to do. If it works for you as an individual and you're happy with that, then it's not me to judge on that. But what I would say is it you're overeating on that day, or are you having bigger meals that day? So for instance, you know, like during the week you have set meals that you do, work around your life, work around the gym, everything like that, and then you go to the weekend and you have a Cafe 33 and a barbecue, right? But is it just the volume of the foods there that you're increasing rather than the actual intake? Because you're probably only going to have 2 massive meals or 2 big meals there. So like, is it you're eating more, or is it just you're eating more on the plate for that individual meal? So, and then if you're choosing to undereat the other day because what you think psychologically that you've eaten, then you're holding your recovery, okay? Another thing with weekends as well, it's really easy to be consistent during the week because we always have, as humans, repetitive patterns that we do, and over the weekend we have a bit more flexibility, right? Have a weekend structure so you can navigate, okay? So what I mean is, like, if you have 3 meals a day and 3 snacks during the week because you're able to, but over the weekend you've got the kids, you're going ferry into X amount, like maybe have 2 meals a day and take 4 snacks as such, like, and you're decreasing, say, the meals because you can't get home or you can't get here, but you're increasing the amount of snacks that you get in to still keep you going as such. The big thing about weekends, 9 times out of 10 for us, our weekends are recovery as well. So if you choose to undereat or think that you're not hydrating enough and stuff like that, like or if we work during the week and we don't work over the weekend, then we have a prime example, a prime opportunity to recover over the weekend, okay? So if stress is lower because we're not working, then your body's going to then be able to digest food better and stuff like that. So when you talk about eating more on your plate on that Sunday, your body will probably do better actually digesting it than it would during the week, because stress will be lower over the weekends than it is during the week. Does that make sense? Yeah?
In general, does it, like, for your evening meal, because I've always thought that you do slow down, like, your kind of metabolism if you eat it too late.
Yeah.
Is it, if you had a choice to eat it like 6 or 8 o'clock, does it matter?
No, it's total urban myth. Yeah, so your metabolism's your metabolism. There's actually studies that say, you know when they said don't have carbohydrates after 6, there's actually studies that say that carbohydrates are really good for us at night, because you know our cortisol level is all up through the day. Well, carbohydrates engage our insulin levels, which our insulin levels go up, that means our cortisol levels have to come down. So, yeah. So whatever time's fine.
I've just got, it's more personal to me really. When I had my chemo, it put me straight into menopause. So
Yeah.
when I come to the gym, sometimes like my joints and that ache, and I know that's then causing issues with my bones and stuff. Is there any foods that I need to take that will help with things like that?
Absolutely mega question, yes. So obviously with anything we're going through chemo and cancer and stuff like that, is your body's been through a hell of a lot with, it doesn't just attack good cells or bad cells, it attacks good cells as well. And obviously it's engaged in menopause, okay, which obviously your body's going through a huge change, okay. So it's like we need to then have such a focus on the basics with your nutrition of feeding it enough protein, because your skeletal system will benefit obviously or help navigate you through that. So that's with like eating enough protein, and also your micronutrients as well is a huge one. So when you talk about your joints and everything like that, it's going to ourselves, okay, micronutrients, what do we need? We need omega-3s, okay? We need then, and if you eat fish, like that's salmon, that's like walnuts, everything like that. And then we're talking about other stuff that you'll be really susceptible to as well, which is we live in a country that winter's quite the majority of our year as such. So like vitamin D3 with K2 as well, because that's like one of our most powerful supplements for our mood, our also our other indicators within our body. And you can't take vitamin D3 on its own. Our body can't digest it, so take it with K2. And yeah, it's just having a wide variety of micronutrients, like peppers as well. Obviously leafy greens, keeping your fats up as well, like especially in that obviously going through your menopause as well, it's like your fats need to be at a certain level as well.
Yeah.
So it's going, if your total intake, like you need to hit a maintenance, but it's like no matter what, your fat intake needs to be above, probably a bit higher, so a 70 for that day, so or for on a daily basis. You probably want to minimize your sugar intake as well and have more starches, because you don't want to have like huge.
I do like my sugar, but
Yeah, like just
I think
focus
that's
like
more of a woman thing.
yeah.
Really, just
But that's just your body wanting, because it's going through an incredibly big
Yeah.
change. It wants fast energy, right?
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
but it's saying it wants fast energy, but it wants fast nutrients. And you know, when I said the body's a survival tool, right? It's going to go, I need fast energy, but what it needs is fast nutrients. But if you consistently get them nutrients in on a daily basis, it's then you're having less dopamine hit with sugar.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. Great questions, guys. Any more? Any further? Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much for having me, and thank you to Kerry as well. Guys, we're on Instagram. Obviously, Esme works here. I train here. Any questions, right? Like, my goal and my purpose in life is helping people, okay? So even if you're not working with us or whatever, come and grab me. And if you've got a question, like come and grab me in the gym, ask me a question. Like, it's what I'm put on this earth for. Okay? Perfect. Thank you so much.
I'll give you a brief intro, so I'll give a quick outro. I found this a really good representation because we all sit within that pyramid somewhere, and having someone so local to us as well, they can say, right, you sit here, this is how you get there. You can't find that online. That's all stuff online is like written for the masses, where you've got someone who's going to tailor what they know to you individually. So we're really lucky that we've got Luke here. I mean, can't say enough. He's like world-class nutrition. He's like, it's about as big as it gets in the CrossFit space, and it's easy to knock what's on your own doorstep. You just don't think, I would have that much resource in our own gym, but we're lucky and we do. So we're partnered as a gym with No Raw Nutrition now, and we're going to change things on the website, etc., etc. So you've got that resource there. We're going to send an email out later today with all the information that is shared with you, which is about 100 times more than I knew before I came into this as well. But yeah, got Luke there. Yeah, thank you again for the round of applause. Luke.
Thank you. Cheers. Thank you so much. Yeah, of course you can.
Person I do want to ask you. So I'm doing boxing as well.
Yeah.
And I'm doing this thing for the first time where the weigh-in is going to be in the evening time. And
You're weighing yourself in the evening time?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm in the minus 60 kilogram category.
Okay.
And I'm waking up like 60.2, 60.3. I've been weighing myself in the evening when I'm just eating normally. It's like 60.7, whatever. I'm just thinking, how can I maximize, not obviously eating
Going